A morning like any other. He sat quietly in the kitchen. A soft beam of sunlight filtered through the thin, floral-patterned curtain, casting gentle shadows. On the table rested a cup of tea brewed earlier, still slightly warm. But aside from tea, he drank nothing else. It wasn't forgetfulness, nor was he busy. He simply didn't feel the need. "I'm not thirsty," he would often say when his wife reminded him. And indeed, he felt no dry mouth, no intense thirst, as in his younger days, no urgency. Yet, there's something many overlook. After the age of 60, the body's ability to signal thirst diminishes. The sensation of thirst, coordinated by the brain, gradually fades with age. This is partly due to hormonal changes and partly due to decreased function of the hypothalamus. This means that even when the body lacks water, we might not feel it. We think we're fine while our blood thickens hour by hour. Have you ever felt a slight dizziness upon standing, or a bit of fatigue without a clear reason, or a sense of restlessness without knowing why? It's not just aging. It could simply be dehydration. Blood makes up about half of our body's volume, and most of it is water. When we don't replenish fluids, plasma decreases and blood becomes thicker, forcing the heart to work harder to pump it. Each heartbeat requires more effort. Each step adds pressure to the cardiovascular system. And if you've heard that the risk of heart attack is highest in the early morning, this is why. Morning is when the body is most prone to dehydration. Imagine sleeping for 6 to 8 hours without a drop of water, then waking up and taking just a sip of tea. Is that enough for a body that has silently labored through the night? The paradox is, the older we get, the more water we need, but the less we feel thirsty. We listen to our mouths while our hearts are gasping. We think it's normal while our blood thickens like syrup, struggling to circulate. If you've ever skipped a glass of water just because you didn't feel the need, try pausing and looking at your hands. Have they ever trembled while holding a glass? Have you felt your steps slowing, your heart racing, even when just climbing a few stairs? That's not just aging. It's a sign that your body is silently struggling. And sometimes, the simplest, smallest thing, like a glass of water, might be exactly what your heart needs most. Ask yourself, are you truly not thirsty, or have you stopped listening to your body long ago? Perhaps the very fact that you no longer feel thirsty is the most dangerous sign of all. Mr. Joe is 74 years old. He still appears spry, gets around well, and occasionally helps his wife tend the backyard garden. He doesn't smoke, has no diabetes, and only slightly elevated blood pressure. Overall, doing fine compared to his peers. Until one morning, he stood up from bed and nearly collapsed. His vision blurred, ears rang, heart pounding as if someone was beating from within his chest. His wife rushed him to the nearby clinic. The doctor ran tests, and the results left him speechless. It wasn't a weak heart, not a stroke. It was thick blood, very thick. His plasma levels were lower than normal, clotting indicators above the danger threshold. His body lacked enough water for smooth blood flow, and his heart had to strain to push a syrupy substance through tiny capillaries. In truth, that had been happening for a while. It just became more evident that day. The doctor asked, "How much water do you drink daily?" Mr. Joe replied, "Probably 3 cups of tea." "What about plain water?" "Well, I don't feel thirsty, so I don't drink it." That answer, perhaps not unique to him. Many people over 60 say the same. No thirst equals no drinking. But after 60, the body no longer cries out as clearly as before. Mild dehydration doesn't cause pain, doesn't make us instantly exhausted. It just silently thickens the blood, slows it down, becomes more dangerous. And then one day, a step falters. A headache arises without reason. The heart races unexpectedly. Mr. Joe isn't a rare case. He represents millions of older adults living in silent dehydration, unaware. And that's the frightening part. Not what we clearly see, but what we assume is no big deal. After that incident, Mr. Joe began to change. Not drastically, just every morning before his tea, he drank a glass of water, and before dinner, another half glass. When asked if he noticed any difference, he smiled gently. "Just feel lighter, like my heart's less burdened." Blood silently nourishes the entire body, but can also become a burden on the heart if it's too thick. Blood isn't just the red stuff we think of. It's composed of 2 parts: plasma, about 90% water, and blood cells. When the body lacks water, plasma decreases. The proportion of cells increases, making blood thicker, more viscous, and slower to circulate. This is especially dangerous for those over 65, when the circulatory and thermoregulatory systems begin to decline. After 60, the lymphatic system, which helps drain fluids and remove waste from tissues, starts to slow down. Vein valves weaken, especially in the legs, causing blood to pool and making it harder to return to the heart. Reduced physical activity also decreases muscle contractions that aid circulation. Additionally, older adults tend to have slightly lower body temperatures, causing blood vessels to constrict and circulation to worsen. These factors combine, making blood more prone to thickening, even when one feels fine. We often think thick blood only results from salty diets, low vegetable intake, or certain illnesses. But in reality, chronic mild dehydration is the most silent culprit. No need for intense thirst, just lacking 1 to 2 glasses of water daily over a few weeks, and blood can shift to a thicker state. And when blood thickens, the heart must beat harder to push it. Like an old water pump, struggling to move thick liquid through narrow pipes. The result? A fatigued heart, increased blood pressure, and a higher risk of clots. So, don't wait until dizziness, chest pain, or fatigue set in. Remember, the heart doesn't complain, but it's working tirelessly every day. And sometimes what it needs isn't medication, but a glass of water. Have you ever wondered, I don't feel thirsty, so why does the doctor say I'm dehydrated? A seemingly simple question, but behind it lies a profound truth. The sensation of thirst after age 60 is no longer as reliable as before. To understand this, we need to look at a tiny part of the brain, the hypothalamus, the central coordination station for numerous vital functions, including detecting when the body lacks water. In younger individuals, even a small amount of water loss through breath, sweat, or urine prompts the hypothalamus to trigger thirst, making us seek water automatically. But after the age of 60, this mechanism begins to quiet down. The hypothalamus becomes less sensitive, making the warning signals of water shortage less noticeable. You don't feel thirsty, not because you have enough water, but because your brain no longer sends out the urgent alerts like it used to. And that's not all. The antidiuretic hormone, ADH, which helps the body retain water, also changes unpredictably with age. When ADH functions poorly, the kidneys let go and flush water out, even when the body is running low. The result: older adults urinate more frequently, especially at night, and because of that, many begin to drink less water to avoid the hassle. And so we fall into a closed loop. Not thirsty, don't drink, don't drink. Kidneys retain even less water, urinate more, become even more reluctant to drink, and eventually chronic dehydration without even realizing it. The thirst sensation is now like a muted alarm bell. You're still losing water, it's just that the bell no longer rings loudly. That's why doctors often say older adults should drink water before they feel thirsty. Just like watering a plant before the soil cracks. You don't need to wait until your lips are dry, your throat is scratchy, or your head is dizzy. Just ask yourself a simple question. Today, have I drunk enough for my heart, or am I letting it work all alone, in silence? Many older folks carry a quiet discomfort: nighttime urination. Waking up multiple times at night, feeling the chill on your back, struggling to fall back asleep, leaves you weary, foggy-headed, disoriented the next day. And so, almost reflexively, we begin to self-adjust by drinking less water. Some stop drinking entirely after 6 p.m. Others limit themselves to just 2 to 3 glasses throughout the day because I'll just keep running to the bathroom. But few realize that this water restriction actually makes the blood thicker, the heart more strained, and the blood pressure drop more sharply in the early morning, the most dangerous time for older adults. At night, the body continues to lose water through breath, through natural elimination. If not properly replenished during the day, blood becomes more concentrated by dawn. At that point, the heart must pump a thick liquid throughout the body, like trying to suck honey through a straw. That's why heart attacks and strokes happen most often in the early morning, not because of light sleep, but because the blood is no longer fluid enough to flow freely. Just one more glass of water before bed could be the thing that keeps your heart from being squeezed by its own bloodstream. Of course, no one wants to wake up 3 times every night. But instead of cutting off water completely, try a smarter approach. Drink evenly throughout the day, rather than loading up at night. Increase your intake in the morning and at lunch. Avoid diuretics like strong coffee or tea in the late afternoon. And if you drink before bed, let it be just a small half glass. but do it regularly. Don't let the fear of nighttime trips to the bathroom cost you a body running low on hydration. Because in the end, what your heart needs most is not uninterrupted sleep, but a bloodstream light enough to keep flowing even while you dream. Dehydration doesn't always feel like a dry mouth. It doesn't always burn with intense thirst. Sometimes it's just a dull headache, an unnamed fatigue, a fleeting dizziness when rising from a chair. After age 60, the signs of dehydration are often so subtle we don't even notice them. Some blame it on aging, others think it's the weather. But the truth is, many familiar symptoms stem from the body losing water without our knowledge. Have you experienced any of these? A mild, pinprick-like headache in the forehead or at the back of the neck. Feeling foggy, unfocused when reading or watching the news. Dry skin, cracked lips, even when it's not winter. Cold hands or feet, or dizziness, or darkening of vision for a few seconds when standing up. A light, rapid heartbeat after climbing just a few steps, even without much exertion. All of these could be your body's quiet way of warning it's running low on water. When water is insufficient, the blood supply to the brain decreases slightly, making it harder to concentrate, easier to feel tired. The kidneys don't filter smoothly, waste accumulates, leaving you sluggish. Joints lack fluid, become stiffer, movement less agile. And when the blood thickens, blood pressure drops with every posture change, causing dizziness. The troubling part is, these signs don't cause sharp pain, so we often ignore them. Until one day, the body stops with the subtle hints and gives a real warning: hospitalization, blood pressure crash, stroke. So don't wait for the thirst to be obvious. Drink water as a way of living, not just as a reaction, because sometimes just one glass can prevent a dizzy spell, an irregular heartbeat, a needless fall. In a quiet park of a small town, two elderly people walked slowly together. She wore a light jacket, one hand holding onto his arm, tall, slightly stooped, yet still careful with every step. The summer sun wasn't harsh, but enough to dry the throat after a while. She stopped, opened her small handbag, and pulled out a water bottle she'd prepared at home. She didn't say much, just unscrewed the cap, poured it into a small plastic cup, and offered it to him. He shook his head gently. "I'm not thirsty." She didn't insist, just placed her hand on his, gently, so gently. And then she said something he would never forget. "Drink this for me. I'm just afraid your heart won't have enough water to keep beating for me much longer." He smiled, a bittersweet smile that only two people who've lived together for over half a century would understand. He took the cup, not because he was thirsty, but because he knew there was another heart counting on his to keep going. No fuss, no tears, just a touch of hands at noon in summer, and a whisper no one else could hear except the heart. After that walk, he started drinking more water. Not a lot, just one extra glass in the morning and a sip in the afternoon. But it wasn't because of a medical article, not because of a doctor's advice. It was because he understood. Drinking water, not just so his heart could beat longer, but so the one beside him could hear it a little longer too. Many people after 65 begin to notice quiet changes in their bodies. Getting winded after climbing just a few stairs, legs feeling heavy while walking through the market. Lying down feels fine, but standing up makes the heart race unexpectedly. The first reflex is often, maybe my heart's getting weak. But that's not always the case. There's another reason, often overlooked, but very common after the age of 60. Thick blood. When you don't drink enough water, the plasma in your blood decreases. Blood cells take up a larger proportion, making the blood thicker, stickier, and harder to move. Every time the heart tries to push this thickened blood through aging vessels, it must contract more forcefully, more often, and gets more exhausted. Fatigue, shortness of breath, a racing heart, sometimes don't come from a weak heart, but from a blocked flow, all because we forgot to drink water. It's like trying to water the garden with a hose clogged with sand. It's not that the hose is weak, it's that the water isn't clean or light enough to reach where it's needed. We often think of heart health in terms of medication, cholesterol, and exercise. And yes, those matter. But there's something even simpler, yet often overlooked. Water. A heart never stops beating because it wasn't loved enough. But it can stop because it lacked something essential we underestimated: the fluidity of blood. So, if today your heart feels like it's beating faster than usual, ask yourself, am I forcing my heart to strain through thick blood just because I forgot to drink water? If the answer is yes, then luckily you still have time to do something right now. You don't need a big change, no need for long commitments. Just every morning, before doing anything else, drink a glass of water, not as a habit, not because a doctor said so, but as a quiet way of saying, thank you, heart. Thank you for still beating all these years, without a day off, without needing a reminder. Thank you for carrying on, even when I'm tired, worried, forgetful. You kept going, like a silent friend, delivering blood to every fingertip, every cell, every memory, etched in eyes that blur with time. Maybe you've consumed all sorts of things: supplements, herbal teas, morning coffee, afternoon juice. But have you ever paused, not to fuel the body, but to give something back? Just one glass of plain water, colorless, flavorless, but the purest gift you can give your heart each morning. It doesn't just thin the blood. It doesn't just help the kidneys, joints, skin, and brain. It's like a whisper. I know you've been silent for me. Today I remember you. Because if you think about it, your heart has never asked for anything. It didn't knock when you ate salty, didn't speak up when you skipped exercise. It just kept going. Until one day, it couldn't. But before that happens, you still have a chance. Just pour a glass of water. Place it where you sit. Drink it as the sunlight touches your shoulder. And let your heart know you still want it to continue. Not to live long, but to live meaningfully. One glass of water each morning. That's not a habit. That's a thank you. They've been together for more than 50 years. Now their days begin slowly, not rushed, not noisy. She wakes a bit earlier. He stays in bed, eyes closed, listening to the sound of water in the kitchen. There's not much left to say, like in the early days. Stories have been told 100 times. Worries have faded with every bus ride that took their children away. No more arguments, no more questions about what to eat, where to go, what to do. Just being together and living. But one thing hasn't changed. Every morning she places a glass of water by his bedside, and every evening when she sits on the porch, back tired, he quietly places a glass of water next to her hand. No words, no reminders. But that glass of water isn't just water. It's a signal, a message, a promise, not spoken but shown. Today, I still choose to live for you. Today, I still choose to care for you in the quietest way. No need to ask, do you still love me? No need to say, don't leave me behind. Just that glass of water, placed in the right spot at the right time, is enough to answer every question in the heart. They understand that old age doesn't ask for grand things. It only hopes for one, that someone still remembers their heartbeat, even if no one hears it. And that morning glass of water is the gentlest reminder that even with grey hair and fading memory, some things never fade. A glass of water, a glance, a quiet cycle of life, but steadfast to the end. No need to overhaul your entire diet. No need to start exercising 30 minutes a day immediately. No need to drink 8 glasses of water just because that's what everyone says, if it feels overwhelming. Just 1 glass of water to start the day. Place that glass somewhere you'll easily see. Beside your breakfast table, on your nightstand, next to your alarm clock, or right next to your teapot, where you usually pour your first cup every morning. If you tend to forget, don't blame yourself. Set a reminder to drink water as a reminder that you're still alive. Or ask your spouse, your children, or even a neighbor to call and ask, have you had your water today? A small question, but one that could add years to your life. And if you're caring for someone, a wife, a husband growing older, place a quiet glass of water for them each morning. No need to say a word, just let them see it as a gentle way of saying, I'm still here, I still remember your heartbeat. Each glass of water is a reminder, not just to prevent dry throat or stroke, but to remind us we still need each other. We're still alive. We can still do something kind for someone we love, because in the end, love isn't about grand promises. Love sometimes is just a glass of water at the right moment.